When it comes to your retirement, do you want to have the same old plan everyone else has? Of course not. You're unique and have your own goals and dreams. Don't be treated just like a number. This is your retirement. So it's time to think differently. And you're in luck because you've found the Retire Your Way podcast with ILG Financial. At ILG Financial, you won't find generic, run-of-the-mill plans containing the same old cookie-cutter solutions. Dave, Chase, and the ILG Financial team focus on building one retirement at a time using their Think Differently philosophy. And that means your own comprehensive plan with customized solutions built to achieve just one goal, yours. So put on your Think Differently hats and get ready to take back control of your retirement today and for all the tomorrows to come. ILG Financial's Retire Your Way podcast was created just for you, and it's starting right now.
Welcome to the Retire Your Way podcast. I'm Ron Stutz along with Chase Lopez today. Chase Lopez, of course, of ILG Financial. And we are glad you decided to spend a little time with us today on this podcast. And Dave Lopez, often on the podcast, but today it's Chase. Chase, it's great to be back with you.
Great to be back with you as well, Ron. Happy to be here.
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things today, all having to do with getting to and through retirement. And our main topic today is target date retirement funds. And if you are in or near retirement, you may have heard the term target date funds thrown around as a retirement savings option. But what exactly are the ins and outs of this option, and what do we need to know about it before relying on it?
Yeah, so really, whenever we're talking about concepts like this, Ron, here over at ILG Financial, really we want to approach it the same way we approach all of our different investment topics, and that's with looking at the data, right? So really, where we want to start is what is a target date fund? So a target date fund is really just a generic kind of autopilot fund that has a specific date attached to it. So you could be in a 2025 target date fund or a 2030 target date fund or a 2035 target date fund. Just depending on when you're going to be approaching retirement, that's essentially how you pick out the year that you want that target date fund to have. Now, the way that they operate is, like I said before, they're very much on autopilot. So the fund has, beginning, today, let's say, has a specific allocation for both stocks and bonds. And as you move closer to that target date, so for example, the 2030 target date fund, every year that you move closer to that date, the fund actually gets less risky. So what they do is they move a portion of the assets that they have allocated to stocks and they move those to bonds. And they have a generic formula that they use. And every year they move some from stocks to bonds.
With all of the people that you deal with, do you find that most people understand what target date funds are? And, do you find yourself going through this explanation often?
I would say so. Really with 401ks, 401k plans through employers. I think I was looking at the stats the other day. About 80% of people in those 401ks are invested in target date funds. So anyone listening out there, if you have a 401k, more than likely it's invested in a target date fund. And oftentimes, people pick them because they're kind of the more easier funds to understand, right? There's a date there. You can pick the date. And it really is very cookie cutter and generic. So it's very easy for people to understand, hey, we're moving from more risky assets, the stock side, to less risky assets like bonds over time as we get closer to that target date.
Now, you mentioned that target date funds offer a way to put your savings on autopilot, and, the holdings gradually shift away from riskier assets to safer ones, more conservative ones. They're kind of designed to set it and forget it, way to retirement, and that seems like it would be easy for a lot of folks to kind of grasp that concept.
Yeah, exactly. And set it and forget it, I think, is the perfect way to describe it, right? But when we're talking about investments, and this has been a common theme throughout all of our different episodes on the podcast here, is there are two kind of specific periods of investing during your investing life, right? We have the accumulation phase, and that's roughly, ages, 16 for me when I got my first job up until when you get about, 7 to 10 years away from retirement. That's what we call the accumulation phase. And the rules for investing are pretty much the same for everyone in that phase, right? Put away as much as you can. Don't touch it. if you can help it, and look for the funds or investments that give you the best average rate of return over time, right? So that makes the target date fund very attractive to this very much younger investor that's in this accumulation phase.
You can certainly see how that would be so appealing to younger folks who want to just kind of not look at it and let it do its thing and, let somebody else worry about it.
Exactly. But as we move into this distribution phase, right, where we get closer to retirement and we may need to pull some of these funds out for income, or we may need to pull them out to help a child with college, whatever kind of the case may be. Well, now once we have specific goals that we want to use for this money, now we want to use specific investments to achieve these goals, as opposed to being on that more autopilot trajectory that the target date funds kind of allow you to do.
Yeah, target date funds are really interesting. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, hey, I want to look into this more and talk to Chase about it, the number to call is 540-720-5656. Wherever you are in the Washington, D.C. area, 540-720-5656. Now, the usefulness can change over a period of time with target date funds, and you talked about getting 7 to 10 years away from retirement, and in retirement itself, your priorities have really changed at that point, and you don't have time to just kind of, you're not so worried about accumulating, but you get more concerned with holding on to what you have and perhaps building on it, but also not losing it. And you can help folks avoid making costly mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And when folks start to move towards this retirement age, or this distribution phase, as we like to call it over here, really the first thing that we kind of implore these folks to do is, hey, you always want to be looking out for a fiduciary advisor, and specifically one that specializes in retirement, right? As we said before, all of the investment rules for investing change once we enter this distribution phase. So you want to make sure you're aligning yourself with someone that specializes in that distribution phase. Now, when we get to this distribution phase, we're 7 to 10 years away from retirement. Target date funds may not be the best fit for you, right? And the reason for that is we were talking about it a little bit before, but these funds are very generic, and they're what's called rule-based, right? And what rule-based means is every year, regardless of what's happening in the world, whether the market's up, whether it's down, whether it's sideways, whatever's kind of going on, these funds are going to act in the exact same way. What we all know is, stuff changes, right? We've seen it this year with just a whole bunch of things changing around the world.
Have we?
Right?
I'm telling you. It's crazy.
It is. And really what you want is someone that is awake at the wheel, right? That's not just doing what the kind of algorithm tells them to do, and is navigating you through all of these different hurdles that you may not have planned for originally. So when we get into that distribution phase, the target date funds may not be the best fit for you as you're moving into retirement.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to, as you go on in life, you get older and you accumulate more assets and all that kind of thing, and you have money in other funds. These target date funds are not something that appear to be so attractive at that point in your life, and your allocation is no longer what it started out to be, and you have new risks popping up that you're not even aware of. And my goodness, I mean, you mentioned a moment ago that this is kind of a crazy time. A lot of things going on right now, and taxes are going to go up, and inflation is a factor, and it's just wild right now. And you need a fiduciary to take care of those things for you.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever all of this craziness is happening, really, our job as your fiduciary advisor is to kind of help you navigate all of these different hurdles.
Right.
A great example, just going back to the target date funds that we were talking about, Ron, a great example is when you pull money out of these accounts, right? As we move into the distribution phase, something that a lot of folks don't know is when you pull, let's say you pull $10,000 out of your target date fund. Well, what they do is they actually proportionately take that out of both the stock and the bond side. So think about this. We're taping, it's March of 2022. This year, the S&P 500 is down 7% up until this point. So basically, if you had your money in a target date fund, if you're taking money out of that account, you would actually be taking it out of an account that's down 7%, which is not something we ideally want to do. So when you're in these target date funds, you lose a lot of control over exactly what asset you're pulling this money from if you need the money out of these accounts.
My goodness, it's a lot to think about there, and all of that makes a lot of sense, Chase. And what worked then may not work now, and it's important to understand the options that we all have, the way our plan is structured, and how things may change. So, what's the bottom line here, Chase, with target date funds?
Yeah, so really, when we're looking at the target date funds as an investment option, the bottom line is just to reevaluate. Every year maybe, or every few years, reevaluate exactly what our goals are for this money, right? The main goal of a target date fund is, as we've said, it's more of a set it and forget it type of investment. It's a very cookie cutter generic stock and bond split that automatically moves you from stock to bonds as you move towards that target date. But it's important as we move towards this distribution phase in life that every investment that we have is very targeted and very intentional, right? We want to make sure that it has a specific goal. Maybe it's income in retirement. Maybe it's an inflation hedge. You talked a little bit about that. Maybe it is for a child or grandchild's college, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever the goal is for that money, the investment tool that we pick should be very much tailored towards that goal.
One thing I forgot to mention at the top of the podcast here is very, very important for everybody out there to know. I want to congratulate you and Samantha on your wedding recently, and really wish you all the best in the world for another 100 years.
Oh, Ron, I really appreciate that. Yeah, it was a beautiful wedding. We actually got married in St. Lucia, had our honeymoon there as well. All of the family was able to come as well. So it was really quite special getting together with all of the family to be able to celebrate that special day. So thank you so much, Ron.
So you guys had all the family come and then send them back home, and you stayed there and honeymooned, right?
Oh, yeah. We said the wedding's over, so you guys can head home and we'll just hang out here on the beach.
That is fantastic. Congratulations. And I know you're happy right now, and it's an exciting time, and certainly appreciate your taking the time to talk to me today about target date funds and everything else. There are folks out there listening to this right now who are going to give you a phone call, no doubt, and set up a time to have a conversation with you and Dave and the folks at ILG Financial. What happens when you have that conversation, when you meet someone for the very first time?
Yeah, so really the first time we meet, it's really just an open and honest dialogue, right? We're really going to ask you, and this may be different from other advisor experiences that people have had, but really we're just going to ask about goals, right? We're going to ask about, hey, when do you want to retire? Ideally, right? In a perfect world, when do you want to retire? Okay, what will that look like? What are we going to do as far as the kids with college? Legacy, is that important to you? We'll look at if one spouse were to pass, what would survivor income look like? Yeah. So really we look at all of these goals, and only after we look at all of these goals, then it will become very easy for us to pick the different investment options. So really what you can expect is just an open, honest conversation in that first meeting, just to see where you at and where you want to be.
Well, with some folks out there, some advisors, it's all about selling products and all that kind of thing. It's not that way with you and the folks at ILG Financial at all. You get to know your folks. They get to know you. It's all about relationships, and that is what sets ILG Financial apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And really something for the folks out there to consider that are kind of listening today is whenever you're looking for an advisor, ILG is like this, but not all firms are. You really want to look for an independent advisor, right? So to your point, Ron, here at ILG, we have access to every single investment tool out there. Target date funds being one of them, but a plethora of other tools as well. And really what that allows us to do is the client then has every investment tool available to them, right? So it puts us kind of on the same side of the table as them, where we're not making, recommendations based on any specific product or anything or any specific fund. Really, we're looking for the best fit for the client.
A true fiduciary who always have your client's best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. And you just used a word that I haven't heard in a while. I like that word, plethora. Sort of overabundance. That's amazing. Well, listen, it's been fun talking to you today, and I know a lot of folks out there got a lot out of this message about target date funds, and appreciate your taking the time to talk.
Hey, Ron, thank you so much.
If you'd like to get in touch with ILG Financial, again, the number to call is 540-720-5656. That's 540-720-5656. This is the Retire Your Way podcast. Chase Lopez spending a little time with us today. I'm Ron Stutz. Have a great time between now and the next time we get together. The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for any individual or entity. All information contained herein is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of Dave Lopez and do not necessarily represent the views of the Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Please consult your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory services offered through Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Alpha Star and ILG Financial, LLC are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.